Hey folks, Ray from DCRainmaker.com here. I'm going to preface this right now that a lot of you may find this video boring, and that's all right. This is purely the user interface of the Fenix 5 Plus series. I'm just going to walk through it, or really just push my buttons away through it. I'm going to focus primarily on the Fenix 5 here in the middle. This is the 5S, and this is the 5X. All these are the Plus, and I'm really not even going to touch this one at all because these two are exactly identical from a user interface standpoint, and this has one additional feature that I will briefly cover also. So this is going to take however long it's going to take to get through all these features. I'm just going to walk through the user interface, nothing super exciting. So for now, let's just simply start with the Fenix 5 regular edition. So what we have here is the watch face. You can go ahead and customize this. If I was wearing it on my wrist, this bottom one there would be my heart rate, and you would see that using this heart rate sensor on the back. The green LEDs just came on right there. So the optical heart rate sensor on the back there. The first thing you'll be able to do is to access widgets. So to access those, I just simply press this up or down buttons right there. This is the heart rate over the last 4 hours. I was just charging it right there for a couple hours. So that's why you see that gap right there. Versus up here, you can see the high and the low during this time period. I can then press this button right there to look at my resting heart rate over the last 7 days. So you can see it's trending downwards. I believe that's about 44, 45 right now for last night. So not too shabby. Click on back right there. This is the back button down there. And then just go scrolling on down. These are all widgets. So this is training status widget, which is something that's driven by First Beat. So that's the same technology that Garmin uses in other high-end watches and even for other calculations on their watches. I can go in here. I can see my VO2 max for running. I can click down to see it for cycling. I can keep on going, see the recovery hours remaining. So 44 hours to my next hard workout is what they recommend. And then I've got training load as well. It's currently optimal. I've got the lactate threshold. I've manually had put this in this watch right now. And then down below there, the race predictor based on my current VO2 max and my age, weight, and gender. Age and gender. And now this will based on VO2 max. So if your VO2 max tests well, but you haven't done the miles, this will probably show higher than you can actually do. In general, I find this to actually be pretty darn accurate, assuming you've been training a bit and it's not just because you have a high VO2 max to begin with. So going back down to the widgets, my last sport is I ride this morning, just kind of a short ride, only about 20 miles or so. And then below that, we have steps for the day, so also a pretty lazy day as well. 2,100 steps. I can click on this and see steps over the last week here. I can go down and see the distance from each one of those steps also. So kind of the same stuff that we've seen on past Garmin watches, no real major difference there. This is the optical heart rate using this right now to, this is my last stress score right there, medium stress. So you can see it is zeroed out. And that's just kind of a stress tracking. Again, some of the stuff that First Beat has done there in the past. Altimeter and barometer, accessible right there. And then this is music. So this is, I can go and dive into music here. Kind of an interesting little note, by the way. See how this is colored in the background? Kind of a neat little pattern color. When you get below a certain battery life, it actually turns to kind of a grayscale. I'll put a picture up right now on that if I remember to. So a neat little thing I just happened to notice earlier in the day. That's when I was right before I charged it. So I click there to access music here. And now from a music standpoint, I'm gonna grab my headphones over here. So these are the headphones that I have. I'm gonna go and turn these on by just powering them on right there like that. That way they can connect up. And I'm gonna click on play there. Now I click play, it's gonna go ahead and attempt to find those headphones. I'm optimistic, I still have battery life in this. I think it was blinking a second ago, so there we go. Now they're paired up. And I can go ahead and go into my music source. So as I go through this here, I can do play, pause, start, repeat, shuffle, etc. All the things you normally expect on a music player. My music source I have right now, My Music or iHeartRadio. So if I went to iHeartRadio, I see the playlist that I've synchronized, in this case one called Road Trip. I can click on that and just go ahead and select that, and that's just the first song on that happens to be Taylor Swift. And if I go now, you see it started playing that automatically. And you can see, if I go back, there we go, right there. It'll show me the album cover here. Once I get to the play screen, somewhere in here, it usually shows me it. Maybe it's pause. There we go, let's go back here. There we go, and now you can see it right there. Sometimes it will show it, sometimes not. It depends on whether it's downloaded. If I were to go ahead into My Music, my bet is that it will show it there. So we'll go back into music source. We'll go up to My Music. This is music I've synchronized to the watch itself. So change the source and into My Music. And then I'll go ahead here up. Sorry, I gotta get back to where I was thinking there. Inside of My Music now. And I can choose whether to go into playlist, artist, albums, I'll just choose albums. I synchronized a whole bunch of random stuff. So we'll just choose Adele there, hello. And now if I go back into the play menu, let's see, back here, it'll probably show there. We can see the album cover and her face looking back at us like that, a little bit scary. Anyways, back up here, I can do skip a track if I want to. I can go ahead and change the volume here. It also responds to the volume on the headphones right there. You can see that, but I can also just go like this as well and go back and forth. So exact same stuff that we saw on the Garmin Forerunner 645 Music, same stuff as well on the Vivo Active 3 Music, albeit a bit more advanced in the Vivo Active 3 Music. You don't have this little control wheel thing on that, so you do have it here. It's a little bit cleaner implementation here than it is on the Vivo Active 3 Music. So going back into the widgets here, I'm gonna go down until I find the music one again. That's where I left off. We got distracted. Okay, next after this we have calendar. Now I've got to hide the bottom half of the screen because it shows a meeting I have for tomorrow that I can't show you the name of the product and what's being talked about there. It's not a Garmin product, it's something else. But you can see the different things there. So Father's Day shows up in my calendar. If I go out of that, I then have my smartphone notifications. So this is from my Nest Cam, Facebook page, Nest Cam, different things. I can just click on one right there and it's showing me camera outside. So one of my Nest Cams is picking up something there. So I go down next to the next widget. We have the weather. It is really, really hot right now, even hotter in this garage where I'm filming this. I can go, by the way, dig into this and just see the weather, of course, over the past little while. So these widgets are all basically the same before. InReach is another device I don't have turned on right now. And back to this. Now let's talk sports. So sports, you go ahead and hit this button up here, and this gets you into different sport modes. I'll move those headphones out of the way there for now. So let's just choose run, but I can choose any sport that I want to right now. So if I go to run, I think I may be able to get GPS inside the garage here. It kind of worked earlier. But in this case, it's finding GPS, that red line up there. And then down below, I have the timer, pace, and so on. And while that's thinking about GPS, I'm gonna go into the run settings. So if I go right there, I can turn on data screens, or sorry, configure data screens. You can add as many data screens as you want. There, for example, is the mapping one that's on there. I can keep on going down. Power is from Strides, so Strides running power sensor, that is on my shoe right there that you see it there. Unlike in the past, it actually works well on the Fenix 5 Plus edition, something that Garmin added or tweaked some hardware stack stuff so that it works really well here. In the past, it just didn't really work at all very well on the 5 and the 5S. Worked fine on the X though. And then down we have music, click on add new. I can go custom data, for example. I can choose different layouts. We'll just choose 4 data fields. You can see some of the different layout options you have. I can then choose which fields I want in there. So I'm just kind of going through these randomly and picking data fields to add to it. So we'll go down, just picking a couple different things here. Move that out of the way so you're not hearing that music. And then we'll just pick another one here, pace. There we go. So you can see, super easy to configure data fields, just as simple as that. And then we click on back here, and you can do alerts, for example, the metronome. You can look at different map settings in here, configure maps. There's a Topo Active US. I also happen to put Topo Active Europe on this particular watch. So if I go back here again, go back again, go into routing, auto lap, auto pause, Climb Pro, the new feature to go ahead and show my climb status when I've got that. A course basically shows each portion of the climbs individually. So if I were to go up and down, it would show the first climb, the second climb, and so on. I'll put a screen right now, some of that, what it looks like in real life. Really, really cool stuff when it works well, when it works being the important piece there. Auto climb, 3D speed, 3D distance, lap key, and all the same stuff we've seen in the past. Oh, I forgot the one thing I wanted to show you right at the very end. I almost missed it. GPS. So this is where the new Galileo setting is. So you've got GPS normal here, GPS plus GLONASS, GPS plus Galileo, and then Ultra Track. But this is the cool one. First time that we've seen Galileo on a wearable. And so far in my testing, it's working pretty darn well. But you can check out the full in-depth review on the bottom there to see all the accuracy testing itself. So we're back here. We've almost got satellite. There we go. Boom, we got it inside the garage, so not too shabby with Galileo. If I go up, by the way, you'll see now we have the heart rate icon. It's not finding it because, of course, I'm on the wood here. And then we have the phone icon indicating it's paired to my phone. And then InReach is trying to find the InReach device. And then we can go into some of the other run settings, training, navigation. It's here that I can go ahead and find points of interest around me. I can just do food and drink. And it's going to go ahead and find those different options nearby here. in just a couple seconds usually. Now this is what's unique about this compared to the Fenix 5 non-X editions of the past. It did not have this ability. So this is a full point of interest database round. So there's restaurants, Olive Garden, you know, the peak of Italian eating in America there. I can click on that. I can say go there. I can choose a map. I can see what it looks like. So now that we're in the mapping side, so it's actually kind of convenient to be able to show this. I can zoom in and out like this, so you can see the refresh there isn't horrible. Now I'm kind of the point where it loses some of the detail of the screen if I go down a little bit lower. So it's pretty quick. It's not, you know, like a phone quick, but it's not bad. And then this button up here is how I go ahead and change to panning. So I can now pan up and down just like that. Refresh takes a second or so, but it's fine for a wearable. And then I can go pan left and right by pressing that button one more time and off with left over here. So that's how you do just basic kind of navigation within the mapping itself. If we go on, scroll back here, you can also see I could look at courses. For example, I could pull up on a course that I have there. I've got this one I did in the Alps a couple weeks ago. And I can look at a map of this and say, okay, what's this look like from a mapping standpoint? And there we go, there's the course. You can see that the kind of better the topo active stuff there, a little bit better. Scroll back here, I can look at the elevation plot, for example, there. It's all up and then all down. So, and I can of course do the course as well by going up here, say do course, but it's gonna show me that it's, you know, thousands and thousands of miles away. It's almost 4,500 miles away from here in Florida to the Alps. So anyways, that's just a look at mapping as we kind of stumbled into that piece there. Going back over here into some of the settings, we have the ability to customize the watch face there. So just like before, so I can change the watch face to different stock ones, or I can download ones off of Connect IQ. I can also go ahead and customize it. So I can take this existing one right there. I can customize it. I can change the dial, the hands, the data on there. So like this top piece, I can go from altitude to time, UTC time. I mean, there's lots and lots of options here. Missed notifications, recovery time, for example. Lots of things I can do there. I'm gonna go back to altitude. I like that one, to be honest. So calorie stairs, intensity minutes, battery percentage, sunset, and altitude. So we're gonna stick with that, and I can change each one of these as I go around if I want to. So I'll go skip back there. We won't save the changes since I just basically did the same thing I did before. And you can see it just moved the hands back to the current time, so it's not in the way anymore. Clock, this is where I've got alarm clock, timer, stopwatch, alternate time zones, alerts. I can sync the time with GPS. If you have a smartphone though, when you land, it'll automatically do that, like if you flew somewhere else. History here, I can look at my different activities, so my bike today, my run yesterday, and so on back through that. So I could look here, my run yesterday, pull this open and look at some of the details. So you can see the distance, the time, the pace. It was an interval run. So my max heart rate, cadence, altitude, and all that kind of stuff is in there. Laps, map, I can look at a map of this route as well. Again, seeing that mapping functionality is cool here because it's something that wasn't previously there. So I can see that map, I can zoom in a bunch if I want to. There we go, and there we just like before. So reasonably responsive, a training effect from that. You can see that there showing up, and then down into time and zone right there, and so on. So going back into records, this is where you see PRs for running and cycling records. Again, the same stuff we've seen in past watches. Into settings, this is where I can configure different apps and activities. So in Garmin's world, a sport mode is basically the same as an app or an activity. So it's something that you can load new apps on here, and they show up in the sport modes as well. So if I go far enough down here, you can see some of these different modes. I can add different sports. So here are some of the different sports that you can see I can add in here. All essentially the same as that we saw with the Fenix 5 series in the past. No real major differences here either. So I'm going to go and show you something that is unique here, which is one of the phone privacy features. So I can click this button right there, go to phone, smartphone notifications, and I have this new privacy option. What this allows me to do is when I have smartphone notifications that come in, I cannot show them on my wrist until I either press the start button here or I rotate my wrist like this so that shows it. So very similar to what Apple Watch has done with theirs. And the reason you might want to do that is in the past, if you were sitting at a table across from someone, a smartphone notification came in, they would see that notification immediately, and you may not want them to see that immediately. So that's something that is valuable for a lot of folks and is kind of new here and unique to this, alongside, of course, Garmin Pay and things like that. Speaking of which, let's look at that. So to access Garmin Pay, I hold this top button down there, And there we go, and it accesses right there. And now I've got music controls, my wallet, timer, add alarms, save location, alternate time zones, lock the keys, find my phone. But we'll go to wallet right there. I enter my passcode in, which I will just skip ahead to real quick. Now, once I've entered my passcode in, I'll go ahead and simply swipe this or tap this next to a contactless payment reader before the timer gets to the end, and I'm good to go. It's as simple as that. Garmin did just add Chase cards last week in the US. That's a huge deal for US folks because in the past they didn't have Chase cards, and that accounts for like the majority of card issuances within the US. So it's really cool to see that finally added in there. Okay, finally, I want to talk about PulseOx. So for that, I'm going to bring in the Fenix 5X. This is something that is only offered on the 5X, and the reason is, 5X Plus specifically, is it's a different hardware piece. So if you look at the bottom here, you'll see it has an extra diode right there. So if you just flip these over this way, I guess you can see it better probably. And so that will be a red light that will come on when I get to that point here in just a moment. And that's what's going to give us the ability to get PulseOx from the wrist itself. Okay, so we'll go ahead and go into the PulseOx sensor area. So to that, I go into widgets. So I just go up there and you'll see it. The PulseOx reading I just took 86%. Now, if I measure it, I turn it on. It's hard to see on this watch, but it'll eventually light that up, or sorry, in this camera, it'll light up a red LED there. And here it's a bit tough to see. See if I can get it to trigger. Sometimes it's tough to show that. I'll show some video or a photo of it that I took earlier of that red sensor right there right now. And what you're looking at is the acclimation over time on this particular screen, which isn't showing you very much. So again, I'll show you a photo of what it looked like before. And then I can go back here and I can do sensors. And if I go back to the main page here and again show you another overlay, you can see what this looked like in the Alps, kind of going up and down. So kind of cool. If I then go into the settings for this, I can go into pulse oximeter options, and it's here that I can do acclimation all day, or I could do only manual. So if it's all day, it goes every 15 minutes, it turns on the sensor there on the back. And so that does burn through a bit more battery life, but it gets you readings. Typically speaking, you can only do this when you're not moving. So like when you're sleeping, it's great, or if you stop, it takes about 15 to 30 seconds for that reading to occur, which is in line with what you would see for other sensors, all other PulseOx sensors on the market, medical device level sensors. So that's something that the fact that you can't do it while you're moving is certainly a bit of a bummer, but it's also the norm for this particular industry. So out of that option here, there isn't really a whole lot more that's unique or new on the 5X itself. It's just that portion right there. That is, of course, certainly very unique, but it's not, there's no other features beyond that on the 5X. So there you go, just a bit of a user interface look at those three watches side by side. There we go, moving the middle screen. Definitely check out my full overview video up there, the in-depth review down there, and also the unboxing is up there as well. Certainly worthwhile videos, and it gives you a ton more, like that's like almost an hour's worth of video content between those three things. So plenty of stuff to keep you distracted this morning or over lunch. Anyways, if you found this interesting, whack that like button down there. I really appreciate it. Or the subscribe button also down there, because that way you'll be subscribed for all sorts of new videos as soon as they hit. There's plenty of good stuff coming up over the next couple weeks as we go into Eurobike on the cycling side. And then of course, over the rest of summer, we'll see a bunch more as well. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.